the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show. We are back. A long time since we did one of these news roundups, but we're back today, all of next week. We should be back on schedule at least until the end of July, where I travel again. But that trip, I expect to do some shows, so we should be relatively normal through the summer. All right, let's see. We have a lot to talk about. Let me just say there was a lot of breaking news, interesting news, very positive news in some regards on the Supreme Court front. I'm not going to cover that today. What I'm going to do is get an expert to come in and talk about this court, talk about the last court term, talk about some of those cases, and give you a layout of all of them. So we'll do one of the longer shows on the Supreme Court and cover the cases from last week that we would have covered in the news roundup generally, but that I think that is good. That is good anyway. Last week, this last week, as you know, I was at Ocon. Ocon was amazing. It was really, really good. So, thank you for all of you who participated. I hope you had a great time. I think you did. It looked like you did. Seemed like you did. But lots of people from the radio show. Like, I don't know, half of the conference was like Yaron Brook Show fans. So it was really terrific, and it was really, really fun. And I hope all of you come next year. I mean, there's no excuses, right? Next year is in California. The weather will be better than in Florida, and it'll be another, I'm sure, fantastic conference. So a lot of you were there for the first time. I hope it was the first time of many, many, many more conferences in the years to come. So start thinking about Anaheim next year. Bring the kids and take them to Disneyland. Disneyland will be literally in walking distance from the hotel. There's no humidity in California, so that won't be a problem. It was one of the biggest conferences we've had, certainly on the East Coast. I think it's probably the largest we've ever had on the East Coast. West Coast conferences tend to be larger. And there were almost 500 people there, or about 500 people there. So it was really fantastic. And I expect next year, I'm pretty sure next year, will be quite a bit bigger than that, given that it's in California. All right, let's jump in. Ben & Jerry ice cream. Ben & Jerry ice cream, they're owned by Unilever, the European company that owns a lot of different brands. You probably don't know Unilever, but you know a lot of the brands that they own, food and other household items and so on. They're massive, a little bit like Procter & Gamble is in the sense of the diverse products that they sell. Well, Ben & Jerry is the ice cream out of Vermont, and I don't know how many of you know, but Ben & Jerry have been committed hippies, leftists for way back. We're talking about the 1990s. I remember Ben & Jerry. Ben & Jerry were way leftist back then. They're still way leftist, and on the 4th of July, they did what Ben & Jerry do. Nothing here surprises. They wrote, the 4th of July, this 4th of July, it's high time we recognize that the U.S. exists on stolen indigenous land and commit to returning it. Learn more and take action now, and they give you a link to a Ben & Jerry website that basically articulates the story of the different indigenous people, and they particularly highlight the Mount Rushmore, where we've got the statues of 4 presidents, and they say, this belonged to the Tunka Sali, Scapi, whatever, the 6 grandfathers, Sioux Nation, and we should be returning it to them. So they are generally And then, of course, I saw some posts saying, "Hey, Ben and Jerry, are you returning some of your stores that are on so-called native land, or the factory in Vermont, which is on so-called native land?" So they make a big deal out of the back hills and about, and they keep. So the whole story is really about Mount Rushmore, but generally, give back the land. Give back the land. And of course, right-wing media went apoplectic, and they've announced a boycott of Ben & Jerry, and Unilever stock as of this morning is down significantly, which I don't, we'll talk about it, but it's down significantly because this is, as the right-wing media has defined it, this is Ben & Jerry's Bud Light moment. This is Bud Light. And we're going to see now Ben & Jerry sales tank, and we're going to see Unilever stock tank, and so on. And I actually don't think so. I think this is way overplayed in terms of the stock price and even the boycott of Ben & Jerry. The reality is, and it tells you a lot about the right, I think. The reality is, I've been boycotting Ben & Jerry, literally. I mean, they have delicious ice cream. I've been boycotting Ben & Jerry since the mid-1990s. They were crazy leftist socialists advocating for horrible policies. They would regularly be interviewed on TV. They were CEOs, and therefore they got some prestige from that, and therefore people took them seriously. And I said, I'm not giving these bastards money because they're advocating for philosophy and ideology that I oppose, and this is the brand. And the brand is associated with the left, the worst elements within the left. And then and then when they sold to Unilever, I said, "Ooh, maybe now I can buy Ben & Jerry ice cream." But then Unilever basically established a special board for Ben & Jerry to maintain their kind of corporate culture and to maintain their advocacy and their continued, leftist agenda and policy. So I basically have not eaten Ben & Jerry since the mid-1990s. And yes, their ice cream, I think, does taste good, although I don't eat ice cream anymore. Anyway, it's probably way too sweet for me. But yeah, I'm sure at the time, it was definitely a good tasting ice cream. But you know what? There are lots of good tasting ice creams. There's no shortage in great ice cream in America. You don't have to buy Ben & Jerry. And everybody's known they are crazy leftists from way back, from decades ago, 90s, right? 30 years ago. So what did they say here? They said a standard leftist line about indigenous people and about their land, and we stole their land. All right. Is this change my assessment of Ben & Jerry? No. I mean, this is no different than anything else they've said in the past. They hate capitalism. They hate Israel. They hate everything. They're very woke. They're pro-woke. They've always been politically correct when politically correct was the term. So, yeah, and they said on 4th of July, which is par for the course for them. I mean, they used to come on television in the 90s a lot, just slamming markets and capitalism and CEO pay and everything about corporations. So my view is they've always been leftist. Suddenly people have woken up because it was the 4th of July. Give me a break. So that's why I don't think this is going to be the issue. Now, if Ben & Jerry had said something pro-trans or pro-LGBTQ+, which I'm sure they hold, they have those views, and made a big deal out of it, then I think the boycott would hold, because I think the boycott is primarily driven not by these crazy leftists, not even by woke stuff. I think it's really driven by LGBTQ. That's why the successful ones are being Bud Light and Target, because of their LGBTQ stuff, which I thought was pretty lame. Here's a company, here's how lame the right is. Here's a company that has dedicated all of its energy towards radical leftist crazy ideas for 30 years. And the right's like, blah, who cares? Oh, now they suddenly wake up, but I don't think it's going to have any impact. Yeah, they have had rainbow flavors, the huge pride and everything, but their whole corporate shtick is crazy left from the beginning. And the right has ignored them, basically. Nobody's boycotted them. I'm sure all these TV hosts, they all eat Ben & Jerry ice cream because it tastes good. But one little thing that Bud Light does with Mulvaney or whatever his name is, a trans person or Target adding some stuff, it is so obviously LGBTQ is freaking the right out. And it's a leverage point, and it is their thing. And that's why I don't think this will have an impact, because this is too generic left. They've always been like this. And again, I've been boycotting, because I do believe in boycotting companies that commit their profits to a social ideology. I mean, an extensive social ideology that I'm opposed. I wouldn't be boycotting Bud Light other than their beer sucks. And I don't boycott Target because the corporation is not dedicated to ideology. Dedicated to an ideology I'm opposed to. Ben & Jerry's all their profits, or a significant portion of the profits, are dedicated to promoting ideology that I oppose from beginning to end. And I boycotted them, and I think you should too, and I think everybody should. I don't think this is going to have as much oomph on the right as Targeted and Bud Light, because it doesn't have that trigger. The trigger is what? LGBTQ issues. It's the same. If you watch my talk at Ocon, it's what Putin knows, right? Putin knows that the right in America is obsessed by this issue. So in every single speech, he talks about the decadent right. How is the decadent because of gays and because of LGBTQ stuff? And to a large extent, the American right supports Putin because, hey, he's on our side on the most important issue of the day, most important issue in the world today, which is LGBTQ. And because of that, because I should have ordered the topics differently. So because that is, because we talked about that. Let's put DeSantis. Let's get DeSantis. We'll skip him ahead a little bit. So anyway, that's Ben and Jerry. DeSantis, I don't know, a couple of days ago put out an ad. You probably saw this. I don't know if you saw the video. I highly recommend watching the video to really get a good sense of what this is. What the uproar was. So he put out a video ad. I guess his PAC put out a video ad. And the video ad basically is making the case that Trump is pro-LGBTQ+. Indeed, Trump says in this video, that he would add a trans to his beauty contest, that he didn't care which bathroom Caitlyn Jenner used at the White House, and a bunch of stuff like that, right? So the idea is Trump has embraced Pride Month. He's embraced the LGBTQ community. I, on the other hand, Ron DeSantis, are tough on them. I am super tough on them. And if you watch the video, it's spooky. The imagery is spooky. It's weird. It is. So it starts off okay with Trump saying these things related to LGBTQ, but then when it tries to focus on DeSantis, it's got DeSantis like it's very dramatic. He's got lightning coming out of his eyes. He's got these big, tough sounding laws that he's passed. He is going to clamp down on them. He is going to crush them. He is going to destroy them. And then you've got images of men, real men, men's men, not to be mistaken. None of those guys, God forbid, are LGBTQ. So you've got DeSantis, of course, in a uniform with his military uniform on. They've got Christian Bale, an image of Christian Bale, a man's man. It's just they got it a little wrong. I think maybe they intended this, but it's the image is from American Psycho, where he plays a serial killer. They've got Brad Pitt as Achilles. And then they've got an image of the lead character in Peaky Blinders, one of my recommended shows on gangsters. But the guy's a gangster. Kills people. He actually, the Peaky Blinders specialize in actually cutting people's eyes out and making them blind. These are the images. And everybody, all the other guys are, guys, right? This is a campaign ad. DeSantis is a nut. I mean, he really is. I was hopeful. Anything but Trump. But this guy's dangerous. He is a complete nut. He's gone all in on woke. He's gone all in. This is the only issue that matters. He doesn't talk about anything else. He's defended this video. And he says the video is there to identify Donald Trump as really being a pioneer in injecting gender ideology into the mainstream. He was having men compete against women in his beauty pageant. I mean, what chance did men have in winning the beauty pageant if they competed against men? Bring him on. It's not like sports. Here they clearly have a disadvantage, clearly massive disadvantage. I mean, God. So LGBTQ has turned into the only issue that seems to matter to Republicans right now. They're fighting over who's tougher about it. Donald Trump, of course, on the campaign trail is no longer pro or sympathetic or moderate around LGBTQ. He's all in on bashing them, attacking them. They are the big problem. They are the big problem. They are anyway. So LGBTQ. That's it. That's all these people care about. So that is the big issue on the right, and I guess they're willing to die on that issue, because I do think they'll die on that issue. I do not think that's an issue that wins them the presidency or wins them significant votes in in states that could go either way. I don't think senators and congressmen this enhances them. I think this weakens the Republican Party significantly. But that is Ron DeSantis for you, the LGBTQ warrior. That is how he has presented himself. All right, one consequence of affirmative action going away is that universities now have to figure out how to admit students. They can't use race as a qualifier. They can't use it to keep out Asians, which is the primary thing they used it for. And they now have to find an alternative. Now, you could assume that the alternative would be something like, I don't know, merit, test scores, quality of essay. But there is now a push to use a new tool, a powerful new tool, to take in new students and to guarantee that there is, I guess, some form of diversity among those students coming in into our universities. This is a new guidelines that has been pioneered by the medical school at University of California, Davis. Shocking that this is in California. And the new tool is, just in case you weren't sure on how, the significance and power and influence of altruism in our culture, the new tool is called the adversity score. So students will be scored based on how much adversity they faced. And the head of admissions, he says, look, mostly rich kids get to go to medical school. I want kids to face adversity. I wonder if rich kids can face adversity, and if rich kids who face adversity count, or is it only adversity faced by poor kids? They say the disadvantage scale has helped turn UC Davis, this is from a New York Times article, into one of the most diverse medical schools in the country. And this is a consequence of the fact that in 1996, California banned affirmative action. So they used diversity adversity scores to replace affirmative action. So now, the more you suffer, the more you can show that you're poor or you struggle or whatever, the more likely you are to get into med school. If I ever go to a doctor's office and I see a diploma on the wall that says you got a degree at UC Davis, I am leaving. I am walking out. I do not want a surgeon to cut me open or a doctor to advise me who got into medical school because of adversity. And who knows, maybe the grades they get are based on their adversity. I don't know. There's no guarantee of that. So this is really spooky. Really spooky. And it truly is scary, right? Darren says, why are you in favor of the rainbow cult? I'm not. I just think the right is nuts about it. That's all. I'm not in favor of the subjectivism. I'm not in favor of the nuttiness. I'm not in favor of the nihilism expressed by many in the LGBTQ community and by some of the kind of behavior in pride events. But I also think the right has gone crazy over this. And I'm just pointing that out. You can be against some of the nuttiness of the LGBTQ community without endorsing the bigotry of Ron DeSantis, call it what you want to call it, the complete insanity and panic, real panic, moral panic of Matt Walsh and what's the other guy, the 1220 guy, and Ron DeSantis. You could hold two things at the same time. These guys are bad, and these guys are crazy for freaking out. Anyway, 20 schools have recently requested more information about the adversity score, and about to implement it. So you are now going to have people graduating from college, admitting into college at least, and maybe graded in college. I don't know. Now based on their ability, and the scariest one is medical school, right? The scariest one is medical school. We now have to research who goes to medical school and how they're graded so that we know, right? All based on how much you suffered. Now, adversity could be a factor. Overcoming adversity is certainly a strong, manifestation of certain character, and it's not bad to be somebody who overcomes adversity, and that could be a plus, and certainly should be and can be a factor in making a decision. I mean, but hopefully, test scores, ability, commitment, grades, some other measures of first intelligence and second just commitment to the field, and ability to communicate. There are lots of things that you need in order to be a good doctor, and those are super, super important. Add to that some factor for adversity, fine. I don't have a problem with that if it's focused on the character building, the individualistic